Crystal clear day, big crowd, and the prospect of some terrific racing is in front of us here at Barbagallo Raceway. 120 kilometres, 50 laps. We've got 30 starters because Jason Bright won't be taking part. 75% is 38 laps, and you can see there that the weather is absolutely fine, heading towards 30 degrees. The WPS course car heads out as the grid now begins to clear. And let's take a look at the Fuso grid, because it will show that Garth Tander has collected his 9th pole of his career, the first here in his hometown. He's a happy man. He's got his teammate beside him, Rick Kelly, in position 2. This will be a fascinating battle, won't it? Craig Lowndes and Mark Scaife on the second row of the grid.
Looking further back, James Courtney. He'll be alongside Todd Kelly. We've already detailed the incredible recovery for Courtney and the Gelben team. And this is interesting, isn't it? These guys we spoke about just a few moments ago. The Dick Johnson Racing Jim Beam entries, very strong. Both those guys are going to be contenders in the 2007 championship season. Jamie Whincup is another. He's already shown his hand at Adelaide. Greg Murphy and Jason Richards, positions number 11 and 12. Another pairing, the Tasman Motorsport. This is Stephen Richards and Max Wilson take us through 13 and 14. 15 belongs to Mark Winterbottom and Steve Owen from Rod Nash Racing there in 16. Disappointing for Mark Winterbottom, given that he was very strong in practice yesterday, second fastest, and an engine change at just the wrong time, a problem with the engine in qualifying, so he's got a lot of work to do. Track position, as you know, Matthew, is king round here, so if you start down the order, it'll take at least the first race to be able to get back to where he probably rightfully belongs. And let's hope that Paul Radicic can make it through to the very end of the 50 laps. They will be very taxing on a man who's still recovering after that big crash at Bathurst, and we hope that he can be okay to take us across the Tasman to Pukekohe. Cameron McConville there in P26. There's John Bowe starting from 27 alongside Andrew Jones. Just extending the remarks on John Bowe, need to point out, and he's underlining this one and making sure it's in bold, he's not retiring. He will continue to race motor cars. He's going to step away from V8 supercar competition. There is a distinction. The thing that I love about JB is he said, I just got sick of everybody asking, so I thought I may as well just say it at the top and clear myself out. Maybe he's got another year in him. Well, he's still driving very well. If you're in this field, you're driving very well. And he's a great competitor.
Just been having a talk to the Dunlop tyre technicians. Matty, you mentioned the temperature almost 30 degrees. It is indeed now 30 degrees outside. Track temperature 34. We've had some operating temperatures on these tyres over the weekend into the low 80s. They'll cope up around that 110 mark, but only for a couple of laps. So at this stage, the Dunlop tyre technicians saying even with the degrading surface here at Barbagallo on the sand, the tyres are holding up pretty well. Couldn't ask for a better race day. Paul Dumbrell, the Super Cheap Auto in-car camera on his car number 20. We'll be tracking him around this Barbagallo circuit, and he starts from position 22. We'll also be on board with Jamie Whincup, the Team Vodafone Falcon. Starting inside the top 10. Here's Max Wilson, the WOW Racing Falcon. Our WPS in-car camera there. And Max always gives us a great ride. Drivers being urged to turn on oil coolers and pumps at the moment as we go on board with Rick Kelly. The big pond in-car camera there on the number 1 car. The man who took us to the top of the podium in Adelaide. Drivers also being reminded no burnouts once they pass the last corner. That was a problem last year, for example, on the Gold Coast. Several drivers in strife for that. What a sight. These V8 supercars come over the hill. They look menacing. And just to add to that remark, the reason they don't want the drivers gassing up 630 horsepower cars is the fact that we have marshals on the racetrack. So it's a safety issue, of course. We want to make sure that the people that work so hard to make these meetings happen are safely protected doing their job. So many terrific battles just off the start line alone. Look at that one. Tander versus Kelly. What about this one? Scaife versus Lowndes. Always hard here on the outside in turn 1, 2, because the groove
that appears through the course of the weekend is very much on the race line. One width wide of that, Matthew. It's dusty. There's always a lot of rubber. It's hard to get the car to turn in at turn one. Traditionally, we've seen trouble here off the start and into turn one year on year.
You go back through the field, you find some people who can really cause some damage to the timesheets. Stephen Richards, the last back-to-back winner here. He's gone to the top step in 2005 and 2006. He's back in position 13. Russell Ingall, the renowned racer, back in position 17. But up the front, these have shown already that they're the guys to catch in 2007. The revs are building. Barbagallo Raceway is waiting. The Big Pond 400 is rumbling. And away we go. Good start by Tander. He'll take it to turn one first. Lowndes in there, Scaife. Courtney's caught wide. Clean they go. Todd Kelly's moved up too.
They all dropped into their spots pretty respectably, certainly in the first three quarters of the field, dealing with the first 3 or 4 corners very well as a group.
Around turn 6 for the first time.
Lowndes carrying great speed under brakes, turning in down there at turn 6. Russell Ingall high and wide on the exit of 6.
And this shows you just how quickly one lap goes at Barbagallo Raceway. Inside a minute from the standing start.
Remember, cold tyres, cold brakes. Nothing's quite up to temperature or pressure at the moment.
Here's Russell Ingall having a look at the back of the Sirame car of Paul Morris.
Tells you what the traffic jam's like back in the pack. Russell's down in 18th.
Oh, somebody's already
John
gone.
Bowe.
That's John Bowe. Caught at the exit of turn 4. So he's headed up in the middle of the track and managed to get back on.
Here's a move.
Scaife goes around Lowndes and gets him.
It'll be a crisscross. Craig will now come back up the inside for turn 1 and got him. Great bit of racing between those two.
Expect to see more of that. Inches in it between the HRT car and the Team Vodafone Falcon.
Watch for dirt, 4 and 5.
Campbell Little, voice of, talking to Craig Lowndes. Because John Bowe went off there at 4, that's the reason. So 57.4. Fastest lap of the race, Garth Tander, 1 second margin. Great use of cold tyres. Here's what happened to John Bowe. Given a little touch up there by car number 50, Cam McConville. Those two are good mates. Zinger replay tells us the story. And I think that it'd be fair to say that Cam might find himself in a spot of bother with race control over that one.
See the touch right there. A little bit of panel damage. Sends Bowe spinning off.
Very unfortunate for the Glenford's car. The good news there was no dirt on the road as John went off, and he was able to come back on pretty cleanly. It's still on between these guys. What a great stoush. Scaife in there, Todd Kelly in there. They're battling with Craig Lowndes.
Lowndes got it back too, so Lowndes goes up to 3rd position now. Take a look at this, the Zinger replay. It's just the first move from Scaife on Lowndes, and Lowndes gets him back.
We've seen some wonderful battles from those guys over the year. They genuinely enjoy each other's company. They both drive very well. Look at this, Scaife down the inside at 6.
Big move by Mark Scaife. But he's done it cleanly again.
This time he's in a better position, Mark, as he came off turn 6, but Craig will equally have a look down the inside here. Todd's got the watching brief. Won't be able to do it from there. They've eased away a little from James Courtney. Tander, 57.5 that lap, and a margin out to 1.1 seconds from Rick Kelly. Mark Scaife back in third. Craig Lowndes, Todd Kelly, James Courtney, Will Davison, Stephen Johnson, Whincup, Murphy, Wilson, Holdsworth.
Right in that corner.
Campbell Little talking to Craig Lowndes. Let's just ask him to settle down.
Just saw Paul Radisich take a move up the inside to claim a position from one of the Team BOC cars. What a sight this is.
Both teams drinking from the same colour paint trough. Got to be careful watching the Vodafone and the HRT entries. That incredible that the two of them could present cars at the beginning of the year that look so similar. That side shot that we saw of the cars in the braking approach to turn 6 also gives you a little look at the tiny ripple in the track down there, just a little bump down there. Fastest lap of the race, Mark Scaife, 57.43. He's 1.5 seconds behind Rick Kelly, who's 1.1 seconds behind Garth Tander.
That's what you're looking at. Lowndes versus Todd Kelly, 4th versus 5th. And Todd is waiting to pounce. In car we go with Jamie Whincup. Up over the rise again to head it towards turn 7, the fastest part of the course. Of course is down the back straight. So Tander.
Scaife's flying here. He's very quick at the moment. He's taking a little bit of time out of Rick Kelly. He's eased away from that battle with Craig Lowndes and his teammate Todd Kelly. Turn 1, 90 kilometres an hour in the middle of the corner. They build to 180 kilometres an hour here as they approach over those fabulous S's. Zinger replay, have a look at this up the inside, exiting turn 6, trying to find a way past Paul Morrison, the Sirame entry, and gets him on the outside. That's a bit rare, so he's able to get a better corner exit. Now Paul will come back down the inside, those two continuing their great battle. 17th, 18th, 19th.
Russell Ingall could see that the Sirame entry was a bit loose coming out of that corner. He pounced, as you mentioned. Didn't care which way he could do it, but he did it. Here's Rick Kelly, 1.09 seconds behind his teammate.
To the second split, Garth Tander continues to be the strongest performer at 43.9. Eric Pender talking to Rick Kelly, on board with him there.
And Garth just got another 0.2 of a second away from Rick Kelly there.
Remember at the top of the show I said that if they weren't able to quite dial Craig's car in, he could be vulnerable. I think that's what we're seeing. He's starting to be in trouble. Todd Kelly has gone by. Now James Courtney's knocking on the door. Meantime, Campbell Little's talking to Craig Lowndes saying, let's have a think about how we can adjust our anti-roll bars in the car. Here's the move, Zinger replay, and watch Todd Kelly squeeze by under brakes. Absolutely at the braking maximum of that car from 245 kilometres an hour down to just 100 k's at turn 7.
And that has brought James Courtney and Will Davison and his teammate Stephen Johnson into the picture as well. They're starting to gang up now on Craig Lowndes. Your Xbox 360 leaderboard has Garth Tander leading from Rick Kelly and Mark Scaife. Todd Kelly makes up position 4. Then it's Lowndes. This is the man under attack. Courtney Davison is there as well. And Stephen Johnson and Jamie Whincup take us down to P10.
On board here with Jamie Whincup exiting 1. There's 2. Here's 3. Into 4. Very easy to lock the front left brake here. Back to 3rd gear. Patience with the throttle. 4th gear through turn 5. Easy to run out of road. Little trench digs on the outside over the sawtooth curve. 5th. Big bump. Back to 3rd gear for turn 6. This is a busy racetrack. Apply the throttle. Car wants to wind sideways. 4th. 5th. 6th. Little crack on the gear changes, the flat shifting, the car just bouncing onto the 7,500 RPM rev limit. 3rd gear, 4th gear, out of the final turn. That's the start-finish line. So that's a lap round here. It happens very, very quickly. We're on lap 10, and the compulsory pit stop window opens in 7 laps. This is a great little bit of road through here. When the tyres are good on the car and the car's gripped up, it's like a roller coaster ride through there, Matty. You can really fling the car through there, and they basically leap from 2 wheels to 2 wheels as you pound over the curbs.
Just remarkable that so much could happen in such a short space of time, under a minute. As Neil said, this is a busy, busy racetrack. Look at the queue waiting for Lowndes.
Garth Tander talking to Matt Nilsson, and they're discussing what tyre pressures to set for the incoming tyre set on that car. Judging by his pace at the moment, he's 0.3 quicker on the last lap than Rick, and his margin's out to nearly 1.6 seconds. He doesn't have a lot to worry about at the moment. Little moment there for James Courtney through 2. Back of the Gelbeen car just starting to jump sideways down there. And he's a little vulnerable at the moment to his mate, Will Davison. This car yesterday, I stood in the garage as they started to peel the dead panels away. Wasn't just panel work, they had major structural damage on the car. If you didn't catch the news, Courtney went off in practice at 245 kilometres an hour.
And it was at that point right there that it happened. Would have been a terrifying ride. We are back at Barbagallo for the Big Pond 400. And Will Davison has joined this queue that effectively at the start of it has Craig Lowndes as the man most likely. James Courtney, the Gelbeen Motorsport Falcon, started in position 6, and that's where he remains.
Garth Tander's been in conversation with his engineer, Matt Nilsson. They're discussing the tyre pressures for the incoming tyre set to go onto the car. He's got good pace at the moment, though. He's still blowing everybody away in the sector split, so he's advancing his lead. It's now out to 1.8 seconds. In fact, it just bumped to 2 seconds over Rick Kelly.
Just spoke to Roland Dane from Team Vodafone about Craig Lowndes' car performance. His words were, it is a long race. So his words are saying he's not too concerned at the moment, but I can tell you there are a lot of numbers being scribbled down and a lot of perplexed faces looking at screens down in the Team Vodafone pit.
Well, he's actually not looking too bad in relative terms to some of those around him. For a while there, he looked a bit vulnerable. Dick Johnson looking on at the Jim Beam Racing entries. Both Stephen Johnson and Will Davison strongly positioned at the moment in 7th and 8th. That little group of cars, including James Courtney, looked like they were about to have a bite at Craig Lowndes. But if anything, in the last couple of laps, as you said, Mark, Craig has eased away. And certainly consistency from the 888 Vodafone entries in the recent past has been very good. They have had good tyre condition later in the races.
We've also been seeing, Neil, some great consistency under brakes from Mark Scaife and Todd Kelly. Some great moves in what is arguably one of the biggest stops in the country, which is turn 7. Unbelievable looking at the data. The brake temperature jumps up under that big stop to 780 degrees.
One of the reasons for that is it's an uphill brake into turn 7, and you can pull 1.6, 1.7 Gs down there, positive load on the car. And it's like being in an open wheel with a bit of aerodynamic advantage. There's the engineer for Jamie Whincup on the left, Ludo Lacroix. Roland Dane, team principal, now on screen and watching the progress of his cars. Lowndes is 5th, Whincup is 9th. It's on. Will Davison's now starting to show a bit of impatience because he's got more lap speed at the moment than James, but he's trying to find some awkward ways around.
That's Ludo Lacroix talking to Jamie Whincup as we took a look at Will Davison there, coming over the hill, carrying an enormous amount of speed and car weight, of course. Wanted to have a crack at James Courtney. Look at that, up to 2 wheels.
As the grip goes away, sometimes you've got to use the curbing to help get the car to point where you want it to point. So you'll increasingly see more people getting hungry over the curbs. That sawtooth curb that you saw Jamie on, then you really rattle over it and you slide over the edge of it as the grip goes away, trying to find every last millimetre available.
So Greg Murphy's tagged on the end of this battle pack here. It involves Courtney, the 2 Jim Beam Racing cars, Win Cup. There he is, Murph, in car 51.
It's a 3rd gear corner, 110 k's. Murph actually having a look up the inside there, and not quite close enough yet, but certainly well within striking distance if Jamie makes even the tiniest error. Garth Tander's the leader. Rick Kelly, 2 seconds is the margin. Mark Scaife in 3rd. Some of that early pace has just eased off a bit now for Scaife. Todd Kelly in 4th place. Then Lowndes, Courtney, Davison, Johnson, Whincup, Murphy. That's Greg. On screen now in 10th. Then Max Wilson, Stephen Richards, Lee Holdsworth. And there's the race leader, and that's what the margin looks like. Shows you the gaps. 1st to 2nd, 2nd to 3rd. Here's a big one, 3rd to 4th. That's back to Todd Kelly. There's Lowndes. Then a fairly decent one back to James, who's just looking a little vulnerable in this group. But remember, the compulsory pit stop window opens in a moment, and you'll see people make changes to their cars. They'll fit 2 tyres, either on the working side or on the rear of the car, depending on their strategy.
Murphy edges it closer to the rear of the Vodafone Falcon of Whincup. That's looking out the back of Jamie's car.
See the little stab of the throttle. Just have to be patient there. Remember those numbers that I mentioned before. You're only at 100% throttle about half the lap around here. The rest of the time you've got to be very patient with the car.
Here's Paul Radicic. He's made a bit of a move. He's in 23rd position at the moment, so he's actually made a bit of a move back. We thought he was picking his way through, but I think the key for Paul Radicic for today is to hold on.
Now the pit lane's going to burst into action any tick of the clock. Depending on where you are in the field, there's probably no reason why the Toll HSV cars wouldn't get it done early. They've got track position. If you're a little bit further down the order, you may choose to extend a while. If you're in the middle of the pit lane, there's a lot of congestion. If you're at either end of the pit lane, you're less interrupted. So depending on who's around you on the racetrack and who's around you. That was Cam McConville's voice. We go on board the Big Pond camera here with Rick Kelly. This is down to turn 7. What are they going to do? In. No.
Really good lap now, really good few laps.
So they're going to try and use that space. There goes Todd. He's in together with Lowndes and Courtney.
The Jim Beam racers stay out.
Slide off, green safety, slide off.
See the high intensity lights in behind the screen. That tells us that the tyre stop's been done, so they're anticipating getting that done. Rears on Todd's car.
Guys, clear, clear, clear. Okay, mate, where you go? 10 lanes clear. Watch your pit speed. Make sure that CPS light is off.
Cam McConville heads back out. So who else has been in? That's Holdsworth. There's Stephen Richards, James Courtney, Jason Richards, Jack Daniels' entry. And Shane Price also took his stop, and here comes Scaife.
So the Toll cars have stayed out, both of them. Will Davison's moved up to 3rd. Good stop, very efficient.
Messing about. You just saw a little fist pump too.
Yeah, they know when they've done a good job. Cam McConville's reporting some brake issues.
Oh, he's gone wide, Shane Price. Recovered it well because both of those left-handers ended up in the dirt there. Here's Mark Winterbottom. The Orcon Ford Credit Falcon.
Just slip your slide off.
Not a lot of room for error, is there, leaving? The exit of pit lane brings you straight out to turn 1.
And if there are more than a couple of cars heading down there, often side by side, and then you turn it into 3 wide, and often that doesn't work down there. So a bit of luck of the draw sometimes as to how easy it is to slot back onto the racetrack. .4-second margin between Tander and Kelly. They've elected to stay out a little longer.
Fabian Coulthard.
They're talking now to Garth about coming in.
And you're on board with Rick Kelly, so what are they doing with Rick?
Can't afford to get tangled up in this traffic. That's what will hurt them.
He continues on his way.
Was that Garth that was off on the left? I think it was,
Hey,
yes.
we're in this one.
Right, so the next one, it'll be Rick. And they couldn't have left that any later because he will get mixed up in that traffic and then that will hurt the net margin he's got.
It's a trundle, isn't it? Trundle, all the way down to the end of pit lane.
Go, go, go.
Championship winning team. They have position 1 in the pit lane order. And Garth has to fling it out there. So in and out. So the other team Vodafone car has gone in as well. It has. That's Jamie Whincup.
Close.
Centimetres close. Whincup and Will Davison.
Oh, he might drop a spot here. I think he has, you know. Wow. How's that for a jump out the pit lane? And that was a handsome bit of driving by Will Davison. He just grabbed him on the way out the pit lane. You don't see that very often. Obviously, Jamie got a bit of understeer through turn 1. He didn't get the nose of the car where he wanted it to be and drops the spot. Here's Rick.
That's the thing as well. You've only got a second. You can blink and you've been outdone.
Jamie will be kicking himself.
Go, 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 go. Watch for exit traffic.
There's Garth, race leader. There's second. And we didn't expect any changes at the top of the tree. Russell Ingall's yet to take his stop. He's actually still the race leader. They may run him long because he was so far down in the field. It's been a remarkably clean start to this motor race.
Grab your controls. We'll take a look at the Xbox 360 leaderboard. As Neil mentioned, Russell Ingall is the on-road leader, but he's yet to pit. So Garth Tander and Rick Kelly still have the top positions in this race. The Big Pond 400 at Barbagallo. It's a fantastically clear day and the racing is right up there to match. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.
So Russell Ingall now comes in for his compulsory stop, so they chose not to run him long. And Garth Tander goes back to the race lead.
Oh, mate, wait. Go, 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 all clear.
Oh, he stalled it. Oh, dear. That would hurt. That was a pretty good stop. Russell actually made some ground out of all that. That stall, had it not been for the stall, he'd have been mixed up with his teammate, which would have been a real genuine gain for him. But anything that he gained by staying a little long and having a clean air run was given away when it chug-a-lugged out of the pits and stopped on him.
In the moment of the
Mate, turn his highlight off when you get a chance, please.
splutter, 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 you could hear the roar, roar, roar of cars coming down the straight.
The reason that it happens so easily, Matthew, is that with the pit lane speed limiter switched on, if you try and put too much throttle into the car, they'll just cough. It won't handle it. And It's not like when you have the electronic limiter off, where you can basically just wheel spin the car and do what you want. So Russell's done enough of this over a long period of time to know that you just can't hustle it. And it's amazing when you're under pressure how you can override what should be a straightforward process. Down.
We're back. This is Russell Ingall. When we left you, he was about the only one who hadn't pitted. In fact, he was. Now he leaves. Oh, he leaves pit lane with a stall. And that is crucial in terms of positions lost. Look at the car zipping by.
And Russell had made a little bit of ground by just running slightly longer. Any gain that he made from that was immediately given away. And it's so easily done when the pit lane speed limit is turned on. If you give the car too much throttle percentage, they'll just stall. Drop the clutch too quick, gas it up, and they just stop. Here's Garth Tander, race leader. 2.6 seconds clear on lap 27. So we're past halfway mark now. Still a long way to go to nurse these tyres. There's the margin, first to second. And it's a fairly big margin then back to third place, Mark Skate.
To show you the kind of damage you can do when you're in pit lane if it doesn't go to plan. James Courtney is a fantastic example. He was 6th, he's now 14th. Where did he lose that precious time? Well, it was in the pit stops. They jammed the rear left gun on the wheel. They lost about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds, and that translated to a good 10 positions.
Stone Brothers Racing team have had back-to-back bouts of bad luck and lost positions courtesy of pit lane.
What that angle doesn't show there, looking at turn 7, is just how uphill that is. When the cars come over the top of the hill and run towards us there, folks, they're doing 245 kilometres an hour in 6th gear. And then it's a huge braking application, one of the biggest of the season into turn 7, wiping off the best part of 145 kilometres an hour. And then across the face of turn 7, it's about 100 kilometres an hour, the legal speed limit for us on the road.
There was one man who is yet to pit, and he just came across our leaderboard crawl there on your screen. It was Alan Gurr, who's in position 11, 10 or 11 at the moment, so he's yet to come in car 26.
Pretty soon, Garth Tander and Rick Kelly will find themselves on the back of another group of cars, and the last of those cars at the moment is Dean Canto. And traffic is something that you've got to manage a little more carefully here as well than you might otherwise at some tracks. .210 Ks on the braking approach now to turn 1 for Russell Ingall. 90 Ks in the middle. Third, fourth, 180 kilometres an hour across the S's. Back to third, down to 120 kilometres an hour. Gently on the throttle. Short shift, pick up the gear early. Over the top of the hill, turn 5. And then running down the other side at 220 kilometres an hour. This tells a bit more of the story, paints a bit more of the picture. Some of that traffic we were talking about. We're riding with Rick Kelly. This is turn 4. Little short shift there, so he doesn't use all the available 7,500 revs. Then fifth, it's a flat shift into fifth. Brake, double shuffle, just to make the downshift smooth. Third gear, then very judicious on the throttle, easing 630 odd horsepower. Once he's got good square load on the rear tyres, flat shift, have a quick rest, a drink, a think, look at all the instruments, tap the brake pedal to make sure you've got brake pressure, and then that little shuffle and the blip of the throttle back to third again. This is pit straight.
Have a drink, deep
Fourth,
breath, 30 laps
fifth.
complete.
You can see the amount of brake pressure there. Carries the brake. See how far he carries it round the corner. That puts load on the front of the car, gives it the grip it needs to turn. Little hesitation over the top of the S's, so that's a lap demonstrating that motor racing is as much a foot skill as it is a hand skill.
Eric Pender there just backing up what you were saying. Drink and think, drink and think. There's not a lot of time to do either around this circuit. Xbox 360 leaderboard has Garth Tander in control. 2.5 seconds roughly clear of Rick Kelly. Then Mark Scaife and Todd Kelly. So its situation pretty much stays the same from when we started this race. But they've had some scraps in between. The Big Pond 400 at Barbagallo on 7. Especially the leading group starting to stretch out here into single file. WPS in-car camera on board. Car number 8 of Max Wilson. Keep an eye on the numbers. Down around turn 1 he goes. Right back to the 80s.
Richards and Winterbottom. Richards and Winterbottom.
Getting the word of who he's going to be fighting. Those behind him.
The fastest lap of the race so far has been Mark Scaife for 57.4. That compares favourably with last year's race 1 fastest lap of the race of 57.5. Remember, we've been speculating about track condition and changes to the cars this year. Last year, the first race was won by Mark Scaife. 57.7 was his quick time, so he's gone quicker this year in the new car. See Maxi just drifting his left foot across there to make sure that he had pedal pressure. You do get a bit of what's described as knock-off here, where the front brakes can be less effective than you want them to be and the rears are too effective, and you need to just pressure the pedal up in order to make sure that you've got brake pedal pressure when you need it. James Courtney all over the back of the Wow Ford.
He needed throttle pressure there. He got it up to 251 k's down the back of that Tate straight.
And the call to be patient in the traffic is now being made to both Garth Tander and Rick Kelly, because they have reached the back of the pack. There's still a long way to go. Very easy to make a mistake in those circumstances. And generally the first driver on the road, in this case Garth Tander, pays the heavier price of waking the field up, whereas the subsequent runners get the easier run because they're already alerted to the fact there's faster traffic coming.
17 to go, Max. 17 to go. Hands up, brother.
James Courtney spent now quite a few laps behind the Wow Racing Falcon of Max Wilson.
Rick Kelly's made a gain on Garth Tander on this lap. Garth's the first man, as I mentioned, on the back of the traffic. Here's Stephen Johnson, Stephen Richards, what am I saying? He's in 11th at the moment in the Castrol Ford.
16 laps to go in race 1 of the Big Pond 400 at Barbagallo. You're watching the V8 Supercar Championship of 2007. We're taking a look at Stephen Richards, who's in position 11, started from 13th. And this field is really starting to stretch out all the way around this 2.41 kilometre course. The Castrol FPR Falcon.
And you have to work very hard here to grab even a couple of spots. Such is the competitive nature of this field. Phil Keed, they're talking about brake balance, so they chase that balance through the course of the race to make sure the brake performance is optimised.
Our race leader continues to be Garth Tander. He's 2 seconds clear of his teammate Rick Kelly.
There's that little...
It's a nasty curve, isn't it?
It's a huge curve. When you hit it, it really rattles the fillings in your head. Here's the race leader. He's got a 1.9 second margin, but he's now in the traffic. And that can sometimes cause problems. And when you're first bloke on the spot of the lead group, you tend to be the one that pays the bigger price. The subsequent cars get an easier passage because the back markers have been woken up to the fact that the quick guys are on the way. One of the Team BOC cars in trouble. I believe it was Andrew Jones, who's got a drama. He's drifting through the field now. Tander is right onto the back of John Bowe, who, remember, went off the road earlier in the race, just a little ahead of where we are at the moment at turn 4 after he got a touch up from Cam McConville. And this will give Rick Kelly a little bit of a gain here while Garth tries to find his way through. Unfortunately, Garth found the back markers at an awkward spot on the track up there at 4 and 5, but John does the right thing, gives him plenty of room. He would have seen the quick car coming and make sure that he sidesteps. Whew. Speaking of sidestepping...
7 and 1 GT. Thank you.
And it was a big oversteer moment there for Tander as he just brought a little bit too much throttle on too early. Scrap here between Todd Kelly and Craig Lowndes continues, 4th and 5th.
They've got a fair bit of clean road ahead of them, Neil, as they come down to turn 7. Take a look over the last 4 laps. Lap 33 up to 36, and it's been consistent. Lowndes beating Kelly in terms of time by as much as 3/10 of a second, and off he goes. Todd Kelly into the ditch at turn 1.
That wasn't me, Matty. There's brake fluid all through the cockpit.
Did you hear that? Brake fluid. Richard Holway, Rob Starr, and this will probably produce a safety car. He's well buried in an awkward spot. And I can hear race director Tim Schenken now scrambling the safety car.
Yeah, like him, we don't need this.
So Todd Kelly instantly talks back to Matty Crawford and tells him, it wasn't me. Brake fluid all over the place. The WPS Chrysler safety car is deployed. And our Zinger replay shows that by the time he got to the end of the straight there was nothing he could do.
Talking to Rob Starr, team manager here for HRT, he confirmed exactly what you're saying. It is a brake problem.
He was a passenger there at the end of that. So Todd Kelly out of the car.
This race meeting last year was a horror story for him as well. He had gearbox problems here, and this will be frustrating because he had pretty good car pace, and we were just making a remark about the stoush with Craig Lowndes, and it's been a good one throughout the race.
He qualified in 3rd here last year and ended up 20th overall. The WPS Chrysler safety car now is in control of this race with some 12 laps to go. So Todd Kelly, who again qualified inside the top 5, actually in 5th position here, is now ruining his horror run of luck at the Barbagallo Raceway. The Xbox 360 leaderboard, Garth Tander, Rick Kelly, Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes, plus Stephen Johnson make up our top 5. We're under safety car conditions. We'll take a break and return to Barbagallo right after this. I know you're not going to believe me, but I was just about to say that there's been no safety car. As a matter of fact, I was going to say, dare I say it?
It's guaranteed when you mention it.
I thought it. That was enough for it to happen.
It's Christy Kelly, Lucas Docking. Not a good day at the office, and when you know how hard these people, these families work for this business, which is 8 days a week, 25 hours a day, it certainly rips their hearts out when things don't go according to plan. But it's very much the way things are in motor racing. It's not an easy business, and you spend an awful lot of time talking about things that didn't go the way you wanted.
Do you have 2 Sundays in an 8-day week, or 2 Mondays?
Take your pick. You can do more racing if it's 2 Sundays.
I'll take 2 Fridays. That is heartbreaking. You know, I don't know if you picked it up. It's Robbie Starr. I don't know if you picked it up when Todd said back to the team. With our kind of luck at the moment, this is the last thing we need. By the way, his race is done. And in an instant, a top 5 finish can turn into nothing, which turns into 0 points.
The record book is a harsh judge, because it means you start from the back of the grid for race 2. You might make 10 or a dozen spots through the race, so then you're still buried in the field for race 3. And then you come away from the weekend, there's never any little column next to the results that says you're actually going really good, and you could have got a good result, but unfortunately it'll just be a harsh number. And if you have too many of those in a championship season, that's what does damage. And remember, we talked about the new point structure at the beginning of the show. When you're outside the top 15 now, it means no points. That was the championship leader until a moment ago. He won't be now. SC stands for safety car, not surprisingly. And very shortly the lights will be out on the safety car now that car's been cleared. That's the trigger to the field that they'll get a restart on the next lap. So we'll have this 1 lap now, and then we'll go racing once more.
We made it almost 40 laps into this race without seeing the WPS Chrysler safety car, but eventually it was going to happen, and unfortunately for Todd Kelly, it happened to him. He is out of this race. When we restart, we'll have under 10 laps in a sprint to the finish.
Well, Tander is leading the race, and I know there's a little way to go, but a very nervous wife, Leanne Tander, looking on.
Yeah, pretty nervous. He hasn't been able to win here in the V8s yet, so I think he'd be pretty keen to get the win today.
And Mum and Dad are here as well, watching him. So, and all the people up there on the Tander stand, talk about pressure.
Yeah, they're always here. It's great to have them and all the other, friends and family that come out to support him every year. He loves the round, so it'd just be fantastic if he could do well.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
Such great support for Garth Tander. A lot of the racetracks, but especially here, we're back under racing conditions. All taking aim at turn 1.
And the field's compressed, which is the most nervous time, and the tyres have cooled out a little, and they've dropped a little bit of pressure. So we hopefully get through this first lap and get back to some decent racing.
Plus, they've got to be careful there, because there would be, you can't get all of the dirt off the circuit, just impossible. They've managed to get through there carefully and cautiously enough.
Somebody was really crawling. Yes, it was Alan Gurr. So problems for him for some reason. He just doesn't have any car pace there at all in the Irwin Tools entry. That's Andrew Jones up on the left there in the Team BOC car. On board with Jamie Whincup. Jamie's 7th. We're looking at Will Davison. Will Davison and Stephen Johnson have been pretty strong in this race. They continue to be strong.
There's James Courtney, smack bang in the middle again. He's finding himself in some pretty sizable battles. The youngster who started on pole in Adelaide had some engine mapping problems and didn't get any good starts at all across the weekend, but here today he started pretty good. But 6th position has slid down to 12th for James Courtney.
Russell's in 17th at the moment. He's looking at the back of Shane Price, and Steve Owens just in front of him in the Autobahn entry. Look at the amount of energy that goes through the car, and they climb over that turn 5 exit ripple strip. Craig Lowndes is on the radio complaining about the lap traffic brawling with each other and just not being awake up to the fact that there's other cars in this mix.
He pushes Dean Canto aside to come on through. Take a look at your leaderboard as it scrolls across. You can see that Garth Tander is in front. Rick Kelly then.
Nice and smooth, get your head down.
And Campbell Little just pouring a bit of cold water over the top of Craig Lowndes' head to say don't get caught up in that battle. Lowndes in 4th position.
And he's got John Bowe just in front. Max Wilson, turn 5.
Has a look up. Fabulous pictures on board with the WPS in-car camera. Just see the haze there. It's always hazy, isn't it, over the back of the other side of the circuit around Cold Corner. 250 Ks down this back straight. Davison scoops it past Canto.
12 months ago, Dean Canto had a race win here in that stoush to the line with Paul Radisich. Just hasn't been able to get a reasonable setup on the car this weekend to get it to perform to his liking, and it's his teammate Lee Holdsworth in the older model car that has the car well tuned to the road.
Stephen Johnson is tailing Craig Lowndes at the moment. Johnson 2 top 10 finishes in Adelaide. He's right on target here for another one. So he's aiming for 4th position. There he is. He's currently in 5th. His 10th year at this circuit, just 32 years of age. Get this, Neil, 27 races he's had, now 28 here at this circuit, and only 1 DNF.
5 laps, mate. 5 laps remaining.
Shows you that he has the consistency. When you've got the pace to match as well, you can put down some good performances, and this is what he's doing. There goes Jamie Whincup. Around the inside of lap traffic, John Bowe.
It's 0.6 of a second between Garth Tander and Rick Kelly. And Mark Scaife 3rd, Craig Lowndes, Stephen Johnson, Will Davis and Jamie Whincup is the race leader. Greg Murphy, Stephen Richards now inside the top 10. Lee Holdsworth in 10th. I think Rick's actually hanging on a little better to Garth. In fact, Garth has just done the fastest split to the 2nd sector. We'll just hold here and have a look at the entire field for you.
Rushing the entry to 6. Just watch rushing the entry to 6.
Derek Pender talking to Rick.
Look at him coming over the top of that hill. 2, almost 3 abreast.
New fastest lap of the race for Garth Tander, so that 2nd sector split was not only promising, he went on with the lap 57.42. Remember, Mark Scaife had the fastest lap of the race prior to that. That gave you a decent indication then of the visual, what it looked like watching the first 15 or so cars in that field.
Well, Dick, is that a bead of sweat coming off your brow there, mate?
It's a bit more than a bead, I think.
Look, there's been a lot of soul searching for this team over the last few years, trying to find that form of old. To be in 5th and 6th at the moment, personally, what does that mean to a legend like yourself?
Well, it's certainly an achievement for the guys, the amount of work that they put in and things like that, but we've still got a ways to go when you see those things in front of us.
It's been 2001 since last time you had a pole. Good to see a return of form, Dick. Fingers crossed to the flag.
Sure is, mate.
Garth Tander's got 9. Oh, someone big trouble.
Yeah, that's John Bowe at the end of 7. Question is, can he get out of there?
No.
Doubt it. That's in a very dangerous position with 3 laps to go.
9/10 of a second is the margin, first to second, and Garth Tander being instructed, don't take any risks. Now, this is awkward because it's a dangerous spot. Max Wilson with damage on the front left corner of the WOW entry. Now, will the race director let the race conclude, or will he deploy the safety car? Always a tough decision for the race director in those circumstances, because typically we don't like to finish races under yellow.
So the front left is the problem for Max Wilson.
Craig Gore on the headset from the WPS organisation. Also, of course, runs Team Australia in Champ Car competition and a supporter of Marcus Ambrose in NASCAR competition. So big investment in motor racing, that man. I think they'll just leave the local yellow out and try and run the race to the end. And they won't be totally comfortable to do that, but they know that it's an awkward scenario to pull the safety car out now.
Tap from Courtney on Winterbottom.
Yeah, Neil, you're spot on there. Craig Gore said exactly that. They are just going to run this one out, 3 laps to go, and they're going for the line.
I just wonder if anything was involved there in the John Bowe Max Wilson incident, or whether they were two separate ones. Either way, the bottom line is that Wilson has front left damage, and John Bowe will not complete race 1 of his 213th championship start.
Last lap, GT. Look for checkers next time round, mate.
You can see the standing yellow flag off to the right there as the cars come across the top of the hill, and then they see the waved yellow as they actually get closer. There's that front left damage on Max Wilson's car. No big deal. Not going to cause too much of a drama.
Here's the Singer replay. It was contact. Contact between Wilson and Bowe. That's deep, deep, deep into turn 7.
Yeah, at least he's round the corner a little bit. So in his judgment, race director Tim Schenken will have decided that he's far enough around the corner that he's not head on to anybody that would come off the road down there.
They've been hooting and hollering across the team radios, haven't they? Because Garth Tander and Rick Kelly started on the front row of the grid for this first race. And assuming nothing goes awry on this final turn, that's exactly how they'll finish. This,
Good job, GT. Awesome. Good win on home floor, mate.
it's a Barbagallo breakthrough for the West Australian.
Awesome.
A hometown victory for Garth Tander. Rick Kelly second, Mark Skaife third, Lowndes in fourth, and a top 5 finish for Stephen Johnson. Celebrations aplenty at the Toll HSV dealer team. And the Holden Racing team had one of those weekends, or one of those races, where one thing worked and the other thing didn't. Todd Kelly didn't complete the race, but Mark Skaife gets 17 points for finishing third. Here's Rick Kelly, who gets 20 points for finishing second, and that will put him in the championship lead. And there's Garth Tander.
Back in the pit lane, GT, and parking at 45 out the front, mate.
What a way to do it. He's been coming here now for 10 years to his local track, and finally he gets the breakthrough victory. Congratulations to Garth Tander. Rick Kelly there second. There's Skaife, Lowndes and Johnson. Will Davison puts the Jim Beam Racing alongside his teammate in 6th position, and that is worth 12 points. Then it's Whincup Murphy. Stephen Richards climbed up to 9th position after starting in 13th. So a good race by him. Max Wilson had his troubles. Jason Richards, his car was all pieced together overnight, and he's managed to get it up to 16th. You see Dumbrell, McConville, Brad Jones, Jack Perkins, and those who didn't finish, John Bowe and Todd Kelly. But the story of the day belongs to the local. Garth Tander is our race 1 winner of the Big Pond 400 at Barbagallo. He is one happy West Australian, and the crowd will love it as well. So much pace and so much consistency, and now he's got the victory that he's always wanted.